In today's video, I'm going to share with you my absolute strength progress after a year of training. And I'm going to show you how I did it. Perhaps you learned something, or maybe this video keeps you entertained while you're in the toilet taking a massive shit. Because we all know that's what YouTube videos are for, right? Yo, what's the crack, my happy face pullers, your personal trainer TiToX, changing people's lives for the better through strength and fitness. Another year has passed, and now is the perfect time for us to take stock on the progress we've made in the last 12 months. Things have been rough this year due to major events, of course, but life is a bitch sometimes, and we just need to tough it out and adapt. But before we go any further, you know what it needs to be done. Smash the like button to make this channel more anabolic, subscribe, hit the bell, blah blah blah, you know the drill. And most importantly, stick till the end or else you have a high chance of losing all your gains. Forever. Roughly a year ago, I competed in a powerlifting meet for the first time in my life. If you want to see the whole experience, my prep, total, and above all, the stupid mistakes I made on competition day, you dumbass! I'll leave a link to this video down below. The meet was a fantastic learning experience, but I also came to realize how far off I was from the top dogs. That sobering moment truly motivated me to improve my performance in the big three, and from that moment on, I got laser focused about structuring my training around those exercises. But now, I would like to take a moment to illustrate how things went down in 2020.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Gyms were closed for months. Calisthenics and weights definitely allowed me to keep working out in my apartment. That was better than doing nothing for sure, but as you can imagine, that style of training was less than optimal for my goals. But once gyms reopened, I got to work. Now I'm going to explain to you how I train each lift in the second half of 2020. Last year's competition made me realize that my body type is great for pulling things off the floor, but not so much for the bench or the squats. So, since I can't change my anthropometry, I focused almost entirely on gaining as much muscle mass as possible. Except for the last 2 months of 2020, my training has been devoted to hypertrophy gains. So, just like any sensible person would do under these circumstances, I went on the biggest, nastiest, and dirtiest bulk of all times. You're fat! I'm just kidding. I did in fact gain some weight this year, but more on that later. Out of the 3 lifts, squat training was the biggest question mark because I took a rather unconventional route. Upon returning to regular training, I laid out a muscle building protocol that programmed 2 squats/lower body sessions per week. This time around, I decided to leave my ego at the door and completed most of my training within a moderate intensity range. I made up for the lack of heavy loads by performing high numbers of repetitions in each set. I only progressed 2 exercises during this training mesocycle: high bar squats and Bulgarian split squats. In hindsight, I honestly think that I got great benefits from working with lighter weights and high repetitions during these 8-week periods. First, I had the chance to practice my squat technique multiple times each set. I recorded every set I did and researched post-training how to improve my form. So this was a phase where I truly prioritized the quality of each repetition. Yes, even though I did train harder than last time consistently, I focused primarily on training better than last time. I spotted a couple of bad habits and had to go back to the drawing board to correct those before moving on to a heavier training phase. I'm glad I did this, to be honest with you. Second, I practiced a version of the squats that is less favorable for my body type. In other words, I forced myself to do something I knew I was gonna suck at. I'm a posterior dominant guy when it comes to squatting. My lower back always wants to take over because my hip extensors are relatively stronger than my knee flexors. So, in order for me to counteract the natural propensity of my body to do this crap, I did crazy amount of reps in a back squat variation that puts more emphasis on my quadriceps. After my summer holidays, I went back to low bar squatting, this time working with a slightly higher intensities. So, when I started my 6-week peaking block in November, my body was in tune with this squat variant and I also felt more accustomed to heavier loads. If training my squat was the biggest question mark, then my bench press was the steepest hill. Out of the big three, the bench press is without a doubt my weakest lift, comparatively speaking. As I've mentioned in previous videos, this is not surprising given that this movement is still relatively new to me. All my pressing up to the summer of 2019 was based on push-ups, the press, and dips. I was lazy about the bench press. It always felt a little bit odd to me, so I never really got down to learning the technique properly. That really showed on competition day last year. I sucked. So I spent a lot of time working on this movement in 2020. So I committed to benching more frequently, which I did 2 to 3 times per week. Ever since, I feel like my chest has grown nicely. Look at my boobs, look at my boobs. And I feel much stronger in my upper body. However, the lockdown didn't help my cause of improving my bench. Sure, I did a ton of push-ups. I also did regular and floor presses at home. All these home-based workouts made the comeback to the gym way smoother. The floor press especially helped me retain the feeling of the barbell, so that did have a slight carryover, if you will. After the quarantine, I trained the bench as my main lift for horizontal pressing within the 80 to 85% of my 1 repetition max. The floor press really grew on me during the time I did it at home, so I kept doing it in the gym as my supplemental lift. My options to add more training volume were to either perform a back-off set on the bench press or complete a few sets in the incline with dumbbells for higher repetitions. Upon returning from my holiday break, I kept the essence of my benching protocol, except for the fact that I changed all the exercises. Obviously, I introduced variation without violating the principle of specificity. The regular bench press was replaced by the closed grip version. The board press became my new lockout supplemental movement, and then I performed my accessory on a flat bench. That's how I approached my bench press training before the start of my 6-week peaking block in November. In terms of the deadlift, I knew this was the movement I had to work the least. The truth is that I feel very comfortable pulling both conventional and sumo. My leverages are great for these two exercises. I practice the technique of the deadlift once per week, if only not to lose my form efficiency. But in all honesty, I put this lift on the back burner for the most part of 2020. Yes, I did train the exercise regularly, but the volume was little and the intensity underwhelmed me most times. I just figured that I should get stronger in both the squat and the bench press, and that would translate to a bigger pull off the floor. My recovery capacities aren't endless, and I feel like dog shit, absolutely wrecked for the remainder of the day and the day after every time I pull fairly heavy deadlifts for volume. So during the 2 mesocycles that followed the lockdown, my energy resources, time allocation, and focus were biased towards the squat and the bench press, no doubt about it. I pulled conventional style every now and then before the summer holidays, perhaps once a month. But for the most part, my hip hinge movements were centered around the sumo and variations of the Romanian deadlift, which is technically not a deadlift. So I used these two in the first training block, and then I replaced the Romanian deadlift for the good morning in the second mesocycle. I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but I consistently progressed these 2 hip hinge movements until November, when I switched gears to a strength-focused training block. It was time for me to peak. Before I talk about how my training changed in the last weeks of 2020, I would like to touch upon my nutrition strategy throughout the year. When it was clear to me that I wasn't going to be able to compete in 2020, I decided to go on a slight and gradual weight gaining phase to maximize the results of my training. Last year, I consistently stayed within a 73 to 74 kg range. In 2020, on the other hand, I weighed 76 to 77 kg for the most part. I've gained around 3 kilo. My body fat percentage has gone up slightly, but I feel amazing. Having a slight surplus, what a weird word, damn. Having a slight surplus of energy really helped my performance in the gym as well as outside the gym in terms of recovery. But please keep in mind that I didn't dirty bulk and got fat in the process. On average, I only gained less than a pound per month. Slow and steady. So far, I've only talked about 2 training mesocycles, pre-summer and post-summer. As I explained before, both programs were designed to maximize hypertrophy in exercises that would have great carryover to the big 3. But in November this year, I started Johnny Candido's 6-week strength training program. Quick FYI, Johnny Candido is an American powerlifter competing in the IPF, and he's also a powerlifting coach. He has a YouTube channel, and as you can imagine, His channel is entirely dedicated to the sport of powerlifting. You will find great information over there, one of the OGs of YouTube. So I went to his website and downloaded his 6-week strength program, which is free by the way. I read the PDF that came with it, followed the instructions, entered a few numbers on the Excel sheet, and voila! If you'd like me to cover Candido's program more in detail, please click the like button and type Candido in the comment section. To make a long story short, the program is laid out in a way so that the initial volume and training frequency gradually tapers off. That allows the athletes to perform near maximum intensity lifts towards the end. The 6th and last week could be used either as a deload week or as an opportunity for you to test your maxes on the squat, bench, and deadlift. That's what I did, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. Just to kind of replicate the unknown conditions of competition day, I put on my powerlifting outfit and went to a gym I had never been before. However, I personally felt like it wasn't worth it for me to reach a true RPE 10 with my 1RM outside competition. So what I ended up doing was to test my AMRAP with my 1 rep max load from 2019. Or simply put, if I could perform 1 rep max with X amount of weights last year, how many repetitions am I able to complete with the same weight 1 year later? In the case of the squat, a year ago I struggled to complete 1 rep with 132.5 kg. The form was questionable to say the least, because I dive bombed the eccentric and I also hit a sticking point in the middle portion of the concentric. Yes, it was a valid lift, but there were so many things to address. So what happened when I loaded the bar with the same weights 12 months later? Let's take a look. That was something I did not expect. I went into the set thinking that I perhaps get 3-4 repetitions if I got lucky, but I got 6 at the end. I'll take it. I was over the moon. A whole year of dropping my ego, addressing issues, and focusing on sub-maximal quality has really paid off. As for Candido's training, I have to give credit where credit is due. Candido's strength block was a fantastic opportunity to build confidence in my ability to work with high intensities. Although I'm fully aware that this calculation is never 100% accurate, my estimated 1 rep max in the squat would be somewhere around 152-155 kg. That's roughly a 20 kg increase from a year ago. I couldn't believe it, to be entirely honest with you. As for the bench, I didn't know what to expect after the squat PR. Last year I hit 80 kg at the meet on my 3rd attempt. Pretty unimpressive if you ask me. Not heavy enough to stay competitive in my weight class, so I have to work my tail off this year. Did it pay at the end? How many times am I able to lift last year's 1 rep max? You're about to find out. Well, that sucked. I was hoping to complete 4 to 5 repetitions at least, but I struggled in the 3rd one already. I paused the barbell at the bottom every time, competition style. That makes the lift much harder, but that's the variation I've trained all year round. If I have to be self-critical, I would say this. I still feel like I need to gain more muscle mass in my upper body. A thicker back, bigger chest and arms could definitely help me a lot. An area I could get better at is to add more weekly volume for my arm training. I thoroughly enjoy working on progressing big compound movements, but perhaps I haven't approached single joint exercises with the same mindset. I need to correct that. Using the 1 rep max calculator, my estimated bench press would be somewhere around 86 to 87 kg. That's roughly a 6.5 kg increase from a year ago. I'll take it. Even if I'm not super thrilled about it, it is what it is. I need to keep working on it. Finally, the deadlift. As I was going through my warm-up sets, I noticed how fried I was. The bar felt heavy AF. All the warm-up sets, as well as the 2 tests on the squat and bench, were clearly catching up on me. So I decided not to test my max rep count, and I simply built up to my 1 repetition max. Last year, I ended up pulling conventional at the meet, even though I intended to compete with sumo. A small tear in my left hamstring doing sumo during training changed my original plan. Anyway, last year I pulled 170 kg conventional, but judging by the speed of the bar, I could have gotten another 5 to 10 kg easily. But you know, first time competing, I had a little bit of a scare in training, so I played safe. It's fine. This time around, I put 190 kg on the bar and went for it. I was happy with my new PR. I'll take a 20 kg increase any time of the year. I don't know if it was the iron high or the double coffee I had as pre-workout, but I wanted to see if I could hit this major milestone, 200 kg. That bar went nowhere. That's okay. I had been 2.5 hours in the gym lifting heavy and I was done for the day. 200 kg will be happening in 2021. It's only a matter of time. A whole year of training summarized in just a few minutes. Although my competition total will not be updated until next year, I can roughly appraise my current total around 430 kg. That means that my absolute max strength has gone up at about 11%. So that's how I got 11% stronger in the big 3, which is almost a 1% increase for every month of training. A whole month of training just to barely get 1% stronger. Pretty crazy when you think about it that way. Alright peeps of the intraweb, I really hope you found value to this video. If you did, go ahead and give me a thumbs up to support the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified every time I release a new video. I gotta go eat. In the meantime, stay fit, stay strong, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more gains. Peace!